I've always been a fan of the Ibanez Iceman. Matter of fact, my second ever guitar was an Ibanez PS60, one of those super low-end Paul Stanley signature models in a silver sparkle finish. And to me, that thing always perfectly embodied what an Iceman should be like, albeit with very cheap components. Sadly, I did end up selling that thing at some point to scrape together cash to buy this vintage flower Strat, and ever since then, I've been looking for something to fill that beautifully Iceman-shaped void in my life. But even though it's always been readily available since, I never wanted to buy that same PS60 again because I felt like I could do better. Sadly, the Iceman isn't as prevalent in Ibanez's lineup as, say, the RG, the S, or even that rather distasteful headless Q shape. And so while technically there always were options, they just didn't match what I wanted out of a nice Iceman. There is that kind of cool matte black iron label one, but I have no use for that thing because in my opinion it defeats the exact purpose that an Iceman is supposed to serve, at least to me, which is be very out there and loud looking and eye-catching. And then there are either the very low-end ones like the PS60s, or the completely unobtainable ones for like 6 or 7 grand, like the cracked mirror PS3CM, both of which are, or most of Iceman's in general, are associated with Paul Stanley, which I'm not the biggest fan of in the first place. But very recently, Ibanez did something that, at least to me, is very special. They brought a rare shape back to the not too cheap, but very obtainable mid-range. Now, why is this so special? Well, because while a lot of what I do on this channel is take cheap guitars and add expensive upgrades to them, sometimes it's nice to have something that doesn't break the bank, but you can still confidently play a gig with out of the box. And that's where the IC420 comes in. This thing is not just gorgeous, but also an absolute ripper. It looks straight out of the 80s, but with beautiful modern field specs and sound. Now, full disclosure, Ibanez did send this guitar to me free of charge, but A, I don't like the word free, because this is work, what I'm doing right here, you know? And B, I asked for this guitar, they will not see this video before it goes up, and they have fuck all control over what I say on here, because if you want biased reviews, go watch Music is Win. It's got an Okume body, a 3-piece Okume set and neck, Jatoba fretboard, 24.7-inch scale length, which I believe is standard for an Iceman, 22 medium frets, balloon test coming a little later, cool jets, a plastic nut, sadly. I feel like in this price range you could have gone Graphtec, but it's not a deal breaker. 2 awesome looking and sounding Ibanez Super 80 humbuckers in standard Iceman wiring, a Gibraltar Performer bridge with a quick changed 3 tailpiece, standard in-house Ibanez tuning pegs for these kind of mid-range guitars, and it comes in 2 colors, either Violin Sunburst if you're more of a classic type person, or this gorgeous antique blue metallic, which is much more my speed. And you also get a lovely gig bag. And all of that for just under €700. Now, I think Violin Sunburst is a little more expensive, but this one is $699. Now, the positives are largely obvious. I mean, it looks incredible, for one. That blue and gold combo, along with that beautiful cream binding. Woo! It sounds killer, plays great, stays in tune much, much better than I would have expected out of those in-house Ibanez machine heads, and it's an Iceman. The fret ends are also filed to absolute perfection, as I will now prove to you with my balloon test, patent pending. Now, if you're new to the channel, then what I'm doing here should be fairly self-explanatory, and if you're not new and you've seen a couple of my reviews before, then the entire first few minutes of this video must have had you trembling just waiting for me to bust out the balloons, because people seem to really like this part. Absolutely not a scratch, would you look at that? But of course, like everything in life, it also has things worth pointing out negatively. Mainly, to me, that would be the plastic nut, which is really not something I want to see at this point if I'm paying more than €600, but that may just be the fault of Harley Benton, who have spoiled everybody by sacrificing a lot of their profit margins for just absolutely unbeatable specs for the money. Now, there is also the glossy neck, which I'm generally not a fan of, but I knew what I was getting into here because this is a standard practice on Icemen? So I'm not too fussed since I knew it was coming, and there are actually some people who do prefer it, so it's always a toss-up with these kind of things. Again, doesn't bother me too much. I wouldn't choose to like buy a $3,000 guitar with a glossy neck, but for this, knowing that this is where I was headed, I don't mind it. Now, I was expecting to maybe have to criticize tuning stability here, but the reason I always spend at least a week with a guitar before sitting down and filming a review, as opposed to some people who do like first impressions type of reviews, is to see how it performs long term. And this thing has absolutely rock solid tuning stability. I suppose this just goes to show once more that you don't necessarily need big name brand tuners, you just have to not have sucky ones. Now, as far as string gauges go, I am absolutely 100% a 9 to 42 type guy. I play 9s exclusively, I just don't need anything thicker. But this thing came with 10s from the factory, so I tuned it down to drop C the second I got it, and played some System of a Down. And honestly, that shit was so much fun, and just such a change of pace as well from what I usually do, that I think I'm gonna keep 10s on this thing, just permanently, and have it be my drop C chug machine. So have some more footage of me playing it, why don't you? So, that's the video. Thanks to you for watching. Big thanks to Ibanez for sending this thing over. There will be a second video at some point in the near future, which will be me modifying it to make it the absolute uber Iceman I've always dreamed of. But for now, if you're in the mood for some more content, most recent videos somewhere over there, subscribe somewhere over there, and affiliate links for everything, including this guitar, are in the description. Thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, hit the bell. I'll see you around.